Hello, everyone. My name is Luke, aka Mr. Rage, and welcome back to another one of my late night gaming discussion videos. Hope you guys are doing well, and thank you once again for stopping by to the channel. In tonight's discussion video, we are going to be talking about Silent Hill 2 Remake, a game that is hopefully coming very soon. Its release date and its intimate arrival are hopefully right around the corner. Silent Hill 2 Remake should be at this month's PlayStation Showcase event, so hopefully there we'll see some new gameplay and as well as maybe a release date for the future. I'm getting kind of tired of waiting. I'm very excited for this game, but I want to talk about some of my concerns with both Silent Hill 2 and Bloober Team's future. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So, I already mentioned this in a previous video about the whole Silent Hill 2 combat gameplay trailer. In a statement that I made a while ago, I said that Bloober Team knows that this trailer is not good because even Bloober Team themselves didn't like it. So hopefully they will be changing it in the final product that the CEO of Bloober Team has even stated will be a much better experience for those who will be getting their hands on Silent Hill 2, unless you don't have a PlayStation. But my concern is I'm afraid that Bloober Team is going to add a little too much action into this remake of Silent Hill 2. Now, keep in mind, I am a Resident Evil fan. That is the franchise that got me into horror games, and that is the franchise that I have enjoyed the most when it comes to survival horror. But that doesn't mean that I don't understand how other survival horror games are supposed to work. And when it comes to Silent Hill, I know that this is a franchise that is so different from Resident Evil. Although they're both brilliant survival horror franchises, they actually couldn't be more different in one aspect, and that aspect is Resident Evil focuses more on the actual gameplay, the survival horror gameplay, while the Silent Hill series is supposed to focus more on the tragic stories that are told in each of the Silent Hill games. They're very deep and very dark, depressing stories. I haven't played a lot of Silent Hill, but even I know that from all the videos and all the gameplay videos that I've watched. I know that Silent Hill, the whole series, is supposed to primarily focus on the aspects of the story rather than the aspects of the gameplay, like combat and stuff like that. Silent Hill is more about story, characters, and atmosphere, as well as the psychological horror that most of the games have done so well. And that's another reason why I am slightly concerned with Bloober Team. If you have played some of Bloober Team's previous games, the psychological horror that Bloober Team uses or have used in their previous games was not at the standards of Silent Hill. And this is also coming from someone who's a fan of Bloober Team's work. That's right, I am a fan of Bloober Team. I love the Layers of Fear games. I loved Observer. That's my favorite game that Bloober Team has ever made. I liked the medium, didn't go crazy over it, wasn't foaming at the mouth over it like, oh my god, this is an amazing game, but I enjoyed the experience. Blair Witch, fucking hated that game, but I have enjoyed a majority of Bloober Team's games, and even I will admit that their horror, the psychological horror that Bloober Team has used for their past horror games, is nowhere near even close to the standards that Team Silent used for Silent Hill 2, and even some of the other Silent Hill games, like even the Western Silent Hill games that were made by, Western developers instead of Team Silent. Even those Silent Hill games had much better psychological horror than what Bloober Team offers. So I'm really hoping that the developers who are developing this game understand that they cannot use the same level of psychological horror that they use for their previous works, because if they do, then this will most likely stir up a lot of trouble, because it's a recipe for disaster if you are not delivering on the high expectations, especially for a game like Silent Hill that has a lot of high standards in all of its elements, especially when it comes to the gameplay, the story, and the atmosphere. Because even the gameplay of Silent Hill has extremely high standards. It's way better than Resident Evil, because Resident Evil has more action. Meanwhile, the gameplay in Silent Hill is actually very intense and very disturbing, especially because of the horrific creatures that you fight in the Silent Hill games. I'm also hoping that Bloober Team really changes some of those models for the monsters. They look fucking horrible. They don't look scary, they look goofy, they don't look intimidating, they look retarded. So hopefully Bloober Team will also update the monster and creature design. Pyramid Head also looks a bit weird. He looks a bit too skinny for my taste. Like, Pyramid Head is supposed to look a bit more buff, a bit more intimidating. Not Nemesis buff, but I think he's a bit too skinny. You know, you gotta fatten him up a little bit. You know, take the boy to McDonald's or something. Get him some Big Macs, because he's way too skinny. But as I was saying, Silent Hill 2, especially Silent Hill 2, this game has extremely high standards for all of its elements. Gameplay, story especially, atmosphere, characters, and even the dialogue. I mean, Silent Hill 2 at this point, we can call Silent Hill 2 an almost perfect game because of how amazing it was. It was good in pretty much every aspect of gameplay, story, characters, atmosphere, the psychological horror. Bloober Team is going to need to step up their own standards if they are going to get even somewhat close to Silent Hill 2 standards. Because like I said before, a game with such standards is going to have high expectations for a remake of such an incredible game. I mean, people had the same worries for Resident Evil 4 when Capcom announced the remake. There were more than enough skeptical fans and people who were like, okay, Resident Evil 4 is a perfect game, and how can such a perfect game be topped by a remake? And somehow, someway, Capcom managed to actually give us a remake of Resident Evil 4 that was not only just as good as the original, but was also better in a lot of aspects. Bloober Team needs to do the same thing with Silent Hill 2, and it will be more difficult. I'll say that right now. It's going to be way more difficult to even come close to topping the original Silent Hill 2. The only thing that Bloober Team is going to be able to improve upon is probably the gameplay, because the gameplay for Silent Hill 2 is pretty outdated for people like myself who have never played it. But for those who did play it back in the day, the gameplay is going to be just fine for you. Like, people who've played the original Silent Hill 2, they're not going to find the gameplay outdated at all, because they're used to it and they love the game. It's not going to be outdated for them. So when it comes to the gameplay, this is probably the only thing that Bloober Team is going to be able to truly improve upon. But when it comes to the story and the characters, Bloober Team will not be able to improve upon this. And the reason for that is because Silent Hill 2's story was perfect. It was perfect, down to the last minute detail. Perfect. Everything about it was incredible. The story that it told was told in such a meaningful and masterclass way. Silent Hill 2 is art. Team Silent are a masterclass themselves. Everyone who worked on the original Silent Hill 2 are some of the most masterclass game developers I have ever seen. If I can get just one more game from the exact people, if they're still around even, I would love that. Because Silent Hill 2's story was incredible. It told a dark, gripping, psychological horror story that will go down in history as one of the greatest stories ever told in a single horror game, in the entire Silent Hill franchise in general. And I am highly doubtful that any of the next Silent Hill installments will do even slightly as good as Silent Hill 2 did in terms of its incredible storytelling and its amazing character development. Because the characters that were made for Silent Hill were also incredible. Not just James Sunderland himself, but even the side characters. were amazing. Hell, even the monsters. I mean, Pyramid Head is unfortunately a forgotten. He's unfortunately a forgotten character because of how long Silent Hill's been dead, but he's always going to be remembered by every single horror fan who loves horror games because of how iconic he is. He's almost as iconic as Nemesis or Jack Baker, or any of the other horror game characters. And that just proves how amazing Silent Hill 2 and its characters are. And like I said before, Bloober Team is going to need to realize this. Hopefully they already have, but they're going to need to realize this, and they are going to have to up their standards if they are going to meet the high expectations for Silent Hill 2 because of the high standards that Silent Hill 2 has. If you're going to be remaking a game like Silent Hill 2, then you better be delivering, because if you're not, then your game is going to be very pale in comparison to a game that is perfect, and that is Silent Hill 2. The only thing that is not good about Silent Hill 2 is honestly the outdated gameplay, and that's easy to improve upon, but at the same time, it's not just about combat, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so concerned, because I'm afraid that Bloober Team is going to make Silent Hill 2 more like Resident Evil and Dead Space and Alan Wake. As much as I love survival horror games, a lot of them are very similar and a little bit too much the same, actually. I mean, I recently played the Alone in the Dark remake, and the puzzles and the finding key items and everything, I felt like I was playing Resident Evil again. I felt like I was playing Resident Evil, but in a different setting and with a different name. Silent Hill 2 Remake cannot be like all these other survival horror games, because Silent Hill 2 was a very special game. It's what makes Silent Hill different from Resident Evil, although they're both in the same genre, and although they are both survival horror games with similar gameplay. The reason why Silent Hill is different than Resident Evil is because it focuses more on its brilliant storytelling, as well as more darker and rippling atmosphere, because every Silent Hill game has that atmosphere. The atmosphere is also a very important thing that Bloober Team needs to focus on. So hopefully Bloober Team realizes this. Hopefully they realize that if they make Silent Hill 2 Remake more like Resident Evil, then it is not going to be received well. We don't want a Resident Evil clone. That is not what Silent Hill is supposed to be. Silent Hill 2 needs to be Silent Hill 2 Remake needs to be as good, if not better, than the original. And hopefully Bloober Team will know how to also improve upon some things. Although Silent Hill 2 story is perfect, Bloober Team can tell it in a more better and improved way if they wish. Like, I'm looking for all kinds of improvement. Like, however they can improve Silent Hill 2 and its story, I'm all for it. Just don't change anything about it. The story is already perfect, and you have a perfect foundation to look at and do what you wish with, but make sure that you are doing the right thing with it. A wise man once said, with great power comes great responsibility. And Bloober Team has the power to retell Silent Hill 2's story in a better way if they even can. And if they can't, then that's fine. If they can't do it, then it's whatever. But if they can improve upon the story, the characters, the game itself in any way necessary, then I give them full permission to, and I hope that they actually can do it. If they can tell the story in a better way, if they could improve the characters if it's even possible, if they can improve the story if it's even possible, that's what a remake is supposed to do. Although Silent Hill 2 is a perfect game, the remake can also be a perfect new reimagining of that perfect game. And if Bloober Team knows how to do it, if they are capable enough to do it, can you please shut up? People driving like those fucking race cars down here. God. Anyways, if Bloober Team is even capable of improving upon the story, the game itself, then I hope they can. I truly hope that Bloober Team knows what they are dealing with here, because if they fail, then this will be the end of Bloober Team. No one will play their games, they will lose money, and they will become massively hated by not just Silent Hill fans, but by fans of the horror genre itself. That's how influential Silent Hill and Silent Hill 2 is. it has influenced the entire horror genre. Even horror fans who don't play a lot of horror games know how perfect Silent Hill 2 was because of how amazing its story was, its characters, everything. So hopefully Bloober Team realizes this, and hopefully they realize that if they could improve, good. But if they can't, just retell the perfect story that Silent Hill 2 offered and don't fuck up the gameplay. Because like I said, if there is more emphasis and more focus on combat, then it'll be that exact focus that will put this game down the wrong path that will lead to inevitable failure. So don't focus on the combat, okay? Silent Hill is not supposed to even focus on the combat in general, but when it does have moments of combat, which all the games in the series do, especially those horrible action-focused Silent Hill games, which has already happened before, when it comes to the original 3 games, the combat should be extremely intense and should be extremely horrifying. The psychological horror in Silent Hill is what should be focused on, but the more intense horror should come from the combat. When you are fighting one of the disturbing creatures in the Silent Hill games, that should be where the more frightening and intense horror comes from, while the atmosphere and psychological horror is why we love the game truly. The story, the psychological horror, the emotions, the true darkness and nature of the story, and its psychological horror, all that is why we loved Silent Hill 2 in the first place. But when it comes to the combat should be where the more frightening moments will come from, the more intense, heart-pounding moments, the moments that actually make you want to turn off the game so you can catch a breather real quick. You pause the game, you see if you shit your pants, and if you didn't, you take a couple of deep breaths and then you unpause the game. That's what the combat should be like. But if the combat is just going to be James just shooting monsters left and right like he's fucking Leon Kennedy or Sebastian Castellanos or Isaac Clarke, that's going to be a problem. That is not what Silent Hill is supposed to be. That is exactly what makes Silent Hill stand out from all these other basic-ass survival horror games. Don't focus on the combat, Bloober Team, because if you do, you're fucking it up. Atmosphere, psychological horror, the story, and the characters, and then the puzzles, and then you can save the combat for later. Okay, because even the original Silent Hill 2 did have some combat moments, of course, especially the Pyramid Head boss fight. And of course, there's also a moment where James could find a chainsaw, so it's a bit silly for my taste. I mean, hopefully that doesn't come back in the remake, but they're probably going to bring it back anyways because Bloober Team knows that people love nostalgia, but I thought the chainsaw is a bit too silly. But the point of a remake is supposed to be improving an already great game, or fixing a game that was bad. Not that Silent 2 is bad, but you get my idea. This remake has high expectations, and Bloober Team needs to meet those high standards for a franchise like Silent Hill, because if they don't, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good at all. Like I said, Bloober Team's future depends on this one game. Because Silent Hill fans are already hating on Bloober Team. Horror fans in general are already hating on Bloober Team. And the game is not even out yet. We haven't even seen a new trailer yet. And people are already shitting on Bloober Team, acting like they've already ruined the game. Hopefully they didn't. Hopefully the CEO knows, because he said so himself. He said that he's very confident that people will enjoy the game. So I'm guessing he already knows that Silent Hill 2 Remake needs to be as good, if not better, than the original. Hopefully not only has he understood that, but so has Bloober Team themselves. All those other fucking developers. So, but yeah, if this game fails, it's over for Bloober Team. It's over. Because what they have in the palm of their hands is one of the greatest horror games ever made. And if they take that greatness and replace it with shitness, people are going to be shitting on them as retaliation. Bloober Team will fail. No one will even consider buying one of their games ever again, because Bloober Team will be remembered as the ones who ruined one of the greatest horror games ever made. And the potential that this remake has, oh my god. If the Silent Hill 2 remake can attract new fans to the Silent Hill series, then not only will the franchise come back, but we can hopefully get even more remakes like Silent Hill 1 and eventually Silent Hill 3 and maybe even Silent Hill 4, because people even like Silent Hill 4. Even I kind of like Silent Hill 4, even though it wasn't as good as 2 and 3. I liked it. I saw gameplay of it. I saw a person play the whole game, so I'm all up for it. It will bring back the Silent Hill franchise just like Capcom did with their Resident Evil remakes. They can do the same thing with Silent Hill if Bloober Team does not fuck up. So, Bloober Team has got a lot on their shoulders. They've got a lot of shit they need to do right. People are relying on them. This franchise itself is relying on them, because obviously, if the Silent Hill 2 remake fails, then that is going to be extremely bad for the franchise, because we've already had some Silent Hill fails, like The Ascension and Silent Hill The Short Message. More like Silent Hill The Shit Message. That game was fucking terrible. Let me know if you guys want to rant on Silent Hill The Short Message, because I would love to do that. That game pissed me off. But anyways, that about wraps it for this video. If you guys stuck by all the way till the end, thank you so very much for watching. Let me know, what do you think about Silent Hill 2 and the remake? Do you think Bloober Team will fuck up, or do you think Bloober Team will actually do well by this great game? Let me know how you feel down in the comments below. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, y'all. Peace out.